that we believe that Labour's commitment to Ulez, and now we know they have secret plans to impose upon all of us pay-per-mile charges every time we're getting in our car, which will make the cruel Ulez cost look like loose change. This could turn into the equivalent of Maggie Thatcher's poll tax for the Labour Party, couldn't it?
Yes, I think that they've actually set off the fuse to a really big and explosive confrontation with the general public now. Nearly all of us drive or need to have access to a car and therefore to the roads, and we're already paying through the nose for a very poor service with road blockages and traffic jams and so on. The fact that some people in the near future, in fact from now on, are going to have to pay £12.50 extra every single day out of taxed income to make short journeys around London, I think is just an act of almost political criminal activity. And this is going to rebound on Labour. It may well be that in the long run, the Tories even might have thought of having a pay-per-mile mileage scheme, but this is Labour doing it, and Labour will be catching the blame for it.
Yeah. Now, if you look at all the evidence, if you look at the fact that Khan gave Imperial College nearly £1 million to come up with a report saying that that Ulez really will improve air quality in outer London boroughs, and Imperial College said, well, actually, it won't make any difference at all. And Khan's response was to get one of his acolytes to ask them to reword the report, and so on and so forth. The rather glib sort of stepping over the consultation and all these, but so on and so forth. Khan says this is purely about air quality. I think we're on quite safe grounds to say, Mr. Mayor, you are a liar. You are lying.
Well, I would use those words and have done, and I think that on this occasion, it's a fraudulent claim. His point is that 4,000 people lose their lives each year through air pollution, which is to bungle up a whole load of statistics involving people with asthma, people who are dying of other problems like pneumonia. The list has nothing whatsoever to do with car pollution. And it has been proved, in fact, that the sort of measures that Mayor Khan has taken already in London with road calming schemes add to pollution enormously by keeping traffic queuing with their engines running. And so this is a spurious claim, and it's purely to make money. It's a revenue-raising thing. These are not health measures. They are ways of stopping cars and motorists who have no other alternative means of getting around and doing their jobs, especially those who have to carry tools to do their daily work. And it is a penalty, not a life-enhancing measure.
Absolutely, as you say. I mean, essentially, Khan's financial illiteracy has driven London to the brink of bankruptcy. He is desperate for money. This will raise billions of pounds. That's why he's doing it, and yet he stares into the camera and tells us barefaced lies about air quality, and that he will be proved to be on the right side of history over Ulez. As I said over the weekend, I'll tell you what it'll prove. It'll prove that not that you're on the right side of history, but you are history. This will make him history, and it could sink Keir Starmer at the next election. Starmer is fuming about this. We all know this. This is the Labour Party against the people. The people don't want this, and this is big, big trouble for them. Let's move on to my colleague here at TalkTV, Nadine Dorris, who resigned from her Bedfordshire seat over the weekend and issued this extraordinary 18-word condemnation of Rishi Sunak and his non-Conservative administration. We've got a clip of her talking to TalkTV exclusively about all this. Let's have a watch.
I have to say my answer to that question is no. I don't think so. I think it's very, very unlikely.
Well, that was her being asked whether or not the Tories, Rishi Sunak, can win the next election. We've just discussed one way they might, by default, because Labour is going to go to war on motorists, and most of the country, or a lot of the country, are motorists, so that might help the Tories. But in terms of Tory policies, in terms of doing something about the migrant crisis, in terms of bringing taxation down, in terms of law and order, Rishi Sunak is not delivering what Tory voters wanted. We're paying the highest taxes since the Second World War with no sign of them ever coming down. Nadine Dorries says that's the problem. High tax, non-Tory administration, no mandate to govern. She's got a good point, hasn't she?
Well, like many other people, I like Nadine Dorries. I think she's a very lively commentator, but this is an act of deliberate and calculated sabotage. There are some things which have not been said by Nadine Dorries, including the fact that one of the reasons that taxes have not come down is because we have a massive national debt, and at least part of that national debt was built by the regime that she supports so vividly, Boris Johnson, her hero. The measures that Boris took in government as Prime Minister cost this country a lot of money, HS2 being just one of them, but the money that was lavished on COVID was far beyond the measures necessary. And frankly, there's no money in the bank, and we're struggling with a national debt. I think that there are some justifications for what she's saying. It does look, at least, as if the Rishi Sunak government is sitting there with its hands folded. But it is, in fact, very, very difficult to suddenly turn around what is a resistance from the blob against just about every measure that is being contemplated by this government, not least, of course, as we know, the flood of illegal immigrants across the channel. So this is not a simple answer that you can simply say to someone about someone that they failed abysmally to do things which they are being blocked on every front by others, not necessarily under their control. That is not to say that there are things that I would like to have seen by this government in terms of slashing red tape regulation, taking on the vested interests, and actually dealing with issues like the gender wars and the culture wars and the council wars, freedom of the press, all that sort of thing need to be dealt with straight away. But there will be, I am absolutely sure, tax cuts in the looming budget in the autumn statement. So it's a matter of timing, really. And I've been assured, and I hope it's correct, that by Christmas we will see that this is a different government to the Boris Johnson government.
Indeed. Let me ask you, you alluded to the migrant crisis there. There's a story around today, another proposal. It's not in effect. It's just a plan that we may electronically tag migrants because we're running out of detention places or places to put them. I don't quite get that, because if you tag them and they can't run away, it means they stay in the hotels and that. Maybe we should not tag them so they can run away, so we've got more spaces for the new arrivals, who we learned today have come across at the rate of 4,000 in the past month. Meanwhile, just as I went on holiday 2 weeks ago, the Bibi Stockholm project was falling apart at the seams, and then it had Legionnaire's disease, and it's now just this rusting sort of Hulk monument to the debacle of this ongoing crisis. I mean, it is becoming a huge nail in Sunak's coffin, isn't it, the migrant crisis?
Well, it's a huge nail in the government. Then I'm talking about the Conservative government dating back to 2010. The fact is that you now know, while you're away, that the Home Office is riddled with people who are absolutely adamantly opposed to the government's policies and will throw spanners in the works to stop them being implemented at every point along the route. And we now know that one of the people in charge of asylum policy in the Home Office has left to join Amnesty International, one of the greatest critics of the Rwanda plan. So, they're deciding actual policy on the ground in contradiction of the government of the day's actual strict orders. So you've got sabotage within the blob, which is what I was trying to allude to earlier. This is resistance by the establishment, which is not the government, not the Conservative Party. It is the unelected bureaucracy that is basically running Britain. that is the target that they should be attacking right now.
Yeah, and why don't they, Trevor? I mean, why have the Tories, I mean, they've been in power now for 13 years or so, why have they allowed the rise and rise of the Whitehall blob? I call them the Whitehall blob, but of course, most of them don't even remember where Whitehall is because they never go to work. Why can't Rishi, and indeed his predecessors, why couldn't they? Why can't they crack down on this? Just say to them, look, you work for us. Come to work for a kick-off or you get fired. Do what we tell you or you get fired. What is the matter with Sunak? Why is he allowing this blob to upend him at every turn?
I think there's a very simple recipe for this, which is to say, right, we're having an arbitrary 20% cut in the 6 million people who work in the public sector. And those who remain will have to reapply for their jobs and be vetted to see whether they're up for them. And thirdly, I think that they've got to do something about public sector pensions. Public sector pensions are costing £2 or £3 billion in liabilities on the taxpayers. If they did all of those things, I think it would very rapidly concentrate the minds of those people who are trying to block government policy as we speak.
Well said, Trevor. Great to talk to you as always. Thank you so much for your time. Trevor Kavanagh there, the political columnist at The Sun.